Okay, here's what we know. Meeting agenda, out to 2:30. We're going to do an administrative meeting with some updates. Then we'll follow that with a discussion. The last board of directors meeting got going on a really intense and interesting discussion, which is related there. U.S. National Grid, is it a point or an area coordinate system? And I think you'll those that haven't thought about it, I think you'll find some interesting insights on the way the U.S. National Grid can be used. And then we'll do just a quick wrap up there, the chair closing comments and next meeting date, those sorts of things. So the administrative meeting and updates, to get this thing going. Zoom has enabled itself in a way where we're collecting automatically the roll call. So no need to do that. The recorder's on, and I'm gaveling the meeting open at approximately 4 minutes after 2 o'clock on April 24th, 2024. And before the floor, I'm putting forward, does anybody have any changes to the agenda, corrections, whatever? And if there aren't, we'll give it a 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato. If I could have from the floor a motion to accept the agenda as published.
I'll make the motion, Cole Brown.
Thank you, Cole. And do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mike. Is there anyone opposed? 1 potato, 2 potato. Hearing none, we're underway. Welcome on board, everybody that's here this afternoon. Truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us, and especially to those who are here for the first time. This is an effort at building groundswell, and every time we pick up somebody and engage with them from this group is moving the ball forward on what I believe you'll understand is a pretty dynamic group effort that's taking place. And hopefully we're going to see some efforts at it catching fire later this year. Committee reports. As we've talked about in the past, we've been working through exactly how we wanted to set up the Institute and make things run. We're basically under legal requirement in the structures that we've picked to be positioned to be rolled out as a nonprofit. We needed a minimum 3 committees, which basically boiled down to the board of directors, the executive committee, which is made up of the officers of the chair, the secretary, and the treasurer when the board of directors is not meeting. That's the executive committee, and you can see the responsibilities laid out there on the left-hand side. And last but not least, we need, for legal reasons, we need to have in place something called a finance committee. So that is what I can tell you about structure. And here's the updates from me. Our last meeting of the board of directors was held on March 12th. The focus remains on 2024 priorities. Secretary Knipple has reported in that he is planned for our next board of directors meeting to take place on Tuesday, May 14th at 11 a.m. in the morning, followed by the next implementation work group meeting on Wednesday, June 19th at this same time slot, 2 p.m. in the afternoon Central Time. Treasurer Colstead was reported in that she had held the first meeting of the Finance Committee, which actually was held in conjunction with the last Board of Directors meeting. The piggy bank currently has $416.86 in it. We got no debt, no outstanding bills, and the balance covers, and as you can see there's a word that's got emphasis under it, the current operating costs for the next 2 years. And the reality being, with some of the things that the board of directors is talking about, the pace is going to pick up here considerably, and we're going to need to see inflow into the coffers to keep things moving forward and make some good things happen. If you wish to donate a Big Mac, the equivalent of a Big Mac and a 6-pack to this organization, that's about $10. You can do that right on our website. There's a link to go donate, and you can always call me up at chair@usngi.org and say, hey, Steve, I just won the lottery. We'd like to give you $2 million. That'd be great. Okay, priorities review. For those that are joining us for the first time, we went through a period of time trying to figure out how we are going to tackle a long list of items that had been identified by some of the core players from the very beginning as to what we needed to do to get, some real zing in this effort. And we finally came to the realization that the best way to move forward was, first of all, to identify priorities, which is what you see in that graphed item there to the right from a spreadsheet. The yellow items identify anything that was picked off as in sequence. You can see the total score for items, and then the yellow highlight indicates what the item is and if there is a champion for that particular item. So yellowed out items, as you can see there, and then you see these priority items for which we have no champion. So they effectively aren't a priority, even though they may be high up in their ranking of what the board of directors believed needed to be tackled first. So going forward, we're using ad hoc project teams, not committees. An owner is needed for a project to be a priority, and some high priorities have been bypassed because there is no project owner, as I've just explained there. This is the list of the priorities, and I'm going to run through them one by one here in a minute. But it basically starts with 1 and 2 have to do with getting our websites up and running. There's long been a need for a national US national grid map uploader, and the programming on that is effectively finished. We're just doing some tweaks on that thing, and I'll talk about that in a second. Production guide for emergency location markers, development of professional admin and correspondence standards, develop a flow and content for social media platforms, create a basic USNG brochure, release of USNG app version 2, and write articles for publication. And last but not least, update the US National Grid Map Production Guidebook. Okay, here we go, one at a time. As some of you are aware, we have been moving from our sponsoring organization, ShareGeo, all of the IT infrastructure in terms of websites and domains from ShareGeo over to a hosting that will effectively end up belonging to the U.S. National Grid Institute when the axe gets dropped on the mooring line to the pier that is ShareGeo. So we ran into a unusual circumstance in that the organization that bought out HostGator, where our stuff was headed, has gone through some extremely turbulent times, and by virtue of the volume of stuff we were moving into that account, we got locked out as being a hacking attempt. And it took literally me having to write a note to the legal lead, and I forget the name of the entity that has taken over all of the stuff that was previously owned under the banner ShareGeo before we were able to get the account unlocked, and it's only been unlocked for about 2 weeks. So there hasn't been much progress on the development of stuff, but as you can see here on the screen, here's the layout. And actually, the project that was done on converting the USNG store, that should be done here no later by the end of this month. I expected it to actually be done today, but we didn't quite get there. So these are the 3 operating entities that will belong to the Institute, and we're trying to work through as each of these boxes describes how we're going to go ahead and clean that up. So that's priorities 1 and 2. Priority 3, our developer has just returned from Colombia, so this project is ready to get underway. And again, working down through the to-do list, we'll be working on that here shortly. The beauty of this approach is that we don't the URL, and Randy Knipple, if he's on the call as we get later into this, can probably describe this a little bit better, but it amounts to uploading and exposing the URL for where the U.S. National Grid map books are located, and then it gets dropped onto a map so others have a relationship understanding of where USNG maps might be available that have been made available locally. We've had a production guide for ELMs under development for an extended period of time, and this has largely been held up just by virtue of the amount of work in other areas. We made the decision to hold off on, just for time purposes, to hold off on this until we got the websites up and running to where they need to be. We've long needed professional correspondence standards. So in the interim, since our last meeting, put together basically following federal letterhead, how those are put together, how business cards are put together. And these will be brought before the board of directors at our next meeting for them to give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever they want to do. But we need to get something going so that folks that are involved in this effort have something other than scribbling on a piece of paper who they are and how to reach them. So that's the intent here. We've already got a project. Let me jump back here. We already have a project out in California that's going to be responding to the Census Bureau on their request for what sort of gridding should be used in their project going forward. And for instance, this kind of a letterhead will go with that to support it. So those are the things we're working towards on that one. We've been really fortunate in Florida State University has ponied up with money to hire an intern that will be working on our social media campaign. And I believe Julia's on the call today. And we're looking forward to working with her on the professionalization of what we've got out there for information across the social media spectrum. And a first meeting to try to get things rolling along on that was held on March 22nd. Right now, Bernard and myself worked through on trying to get a generic U.S. National Grid brochure in place. And that has been, in fact, taken care of. We're only holding up right now and waiting to get it back from the artist who's doing cleanup on it. And it will be, again, published like everything else that we've tried to do in the past as a Creative Commons type item where anybody can take it and modify it, use it however they want. But we're going to at least start out with a base plate for folks to think about how they maybe ought to dress what U.S. National Grid is and how to help others understand how to think about it. So that project's moving along and we're real happy with where that's headed. Okay, I'm going to pause a little bit on this one because I know this has been a source of angst for a number of folks. And so let me just fill you in on what's going on with this. You can see here that on March 31st, the USNG app was removed from the Google Play Store. And prior to that, the USNG app was previously removed from the Apple App Store. Why am I saying this is a very good thing? Because in each of these instances, we took what was the original product and tried to turn it into an app that would be acceptable on, for Apple's architecture and for what Google wanted for Android. And it just ended up turning into a mess. And the result of it was we had a number of people that wandered in and pulled down these, if you will, less than robust attempts. And they were puzzled as to why things weren't working right and whatever. So we had to fight, or ended up that we just ignored. It took us almost 2 years to get the USNG app off of the Google Play Store. And so the fact that it disappeared on March 31st is a wonderful thing because it's not shown there anymore, because what that does is it drives everyone to understand that the only way you can tune into this thing is through usngapp.org. And it only exists now in its original form. And this is something called a progressive web app. What it actually does is it uses the browser in your phone to access the GPS chip and then display the location in a browser window. And so long as you either save that location, like I do on my iPhone, I just hit save this item and it ends up on the scratch pad. So anytime I want to go to it, it's there and ready to play. Or I don't close out the browser page. Lo and behold, it's always available, whether you have a Wi-Fi, lock or not. So you get a satellite lock with this thing turned on, and away you go. You're on the grid, whether or not you got connectivity or not. And so some of the things that are coming in the next version that have just ended up being finishing its test phase, which we call this beta version, version 2, is there will be instructions. One of the things that you'll be able to come through and take a look at that explains this thing as a progressive web app and how it operates and the rest of it. We've talked about certain features that have been added and miscellaneous awareness items like, this app is not intended to be used on your desktop like this. It's not supposed to look like this. It's not supposed to be on your desktop. It's supposed to be on a mobile. But I had to do this to try to drive home the point of the stuff that's coming in what's been converted or will be turned on eventually as being the only version of the USNG app. And so things that are going to get added, there's going to be this info item here. There'll be a lookup item and a copy item. Well, what the heck am I talking about there? Well, the landing page remains as it's same. The feedback says they want the digits and the 100 kilometer grid square, the sizing of the font to be increased. You can see down through the list the different stuff that's going to be cleaned up, and we're very close to having this available for release. There are some secondary features that are one's called a toggle grid and the other one's called a current location feature. So there's a lot more to this than just the original landing page thing. And again, you can go there and fiddle around with this thing right now if you want, but all of these things in there based on feedback are going to get changed. So before I press forward, please make sure you're on mute if you're not yet, so we don't pick up background noise. I'd appreciate that if you could. So here we go. Keep rolling. Priority number 9, write articles for publication. So last week I was out at the Common Ground Alliance conference safety meeting in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And so on the left-hand side, you see an article I wrote for that community, the underground utility community, back in 2018. Here's what we're trying to prevent going forward. I actually spoke to this group all the way back in 2016, and please don't laugh, but in a lecture room that there was over 50 some seats or 70 some seats, I had 4 people in attendance. For this particular event, which was held in Colorado Springs, there were probably close to 100 people in there to hear about plus codes being used as a way to do everything the presenter was describing that U.S. National Grid can do. And when I asked him about the issue of why he had ignored U.S. National Grid, the answer came out that basically he didn't really know much about it. So that bust is on us. And so one of our priority projects for this year is to start getting the word out there more successfully. So look forward to us working on that. He was looking at all the same issues that we have looked at in the past. Is trying to describe what the problems are with lat long and so on and so forth. And he was enamored by the idea. Let me finish the thought here. He was enamored by the idea that Google Plus codes are an open source item. But what the follow through piece that I don't think he visioned completely was does it work on anything other than Google Maps? And the answer is no. So that's again one of the reasons we're here. We're trying to make sure the word gets out about US National Grid, the utility of it, and how it is such a superior approach to what is effectively being hawked by these commercial entities that want to control where in the years going forward. I'm trying to fight back on that. Okay, priority item number 10, the USNG map production guides. And we're looking to have hopefully that completed by the end of the year. Randy, are you with us this afternoon? Going once, going twice, gone. Yeah, Randy Knippel's been working on that for a while, and we'll see where it goes. Okay, old business / issues. This is an unfortunate development in that last time we were meeting, I was telling you about the 2024 Sustainable Trails Conference, how we were going to go down there and again help another community come to understand the value of US Nash Grid, how it can be used for emergency location markers and the rest of it. Some of the folks on the call are aware that in the past we had an incident where a storage locker where all of the stuff that supported the booth had been broken into, and we were down about $1,800 on the stuff that was there. Share Geo came through and they ponied up for the money to get, this, the banner's not stretched tight. The idea here is helping you understand we now once have our big backdrop, which helps explain to folks the importance of what US National Grid is and how it can be used. And lo and behold, I went to register to drive down to Georgia to go participate in this. And this is the first time ever I've gone to hundreds. I've been a vendor at hundreds of events, or in a booth, I should say, at hundreds of events. And this is the first time I've ever run into an instance where a conference closed their expo floor 7 weeks before the event. So I missed out on being able to register, but not to be deterred. We're going to start out in Minnesota once again now that we got our stuff back and are back in business. And you'll see me out there wandering around like Johnny Appleseed, attending these conferences and trying to get the good word out there. So the big one that we've already gotten our bore sites is that same one that we missed in Georgia. Is actually coming up to Madison in next year, but the GISLS conference is all a geospatial folks in the state of Minnesota get together in October, and we hope to hit the Association of Minnesota Emergency Managers at their fall conference as well as the Sheriff's Conference and then we'll start wandering out into the hinterlands to see what kind of damage we can do. So parting thought here on this area of the discussion. Issue number 2 is after you've kind of listened to the spiel here, got an idea what we're about. We really need people to step forward and help us. You can do stuff really simple. There's both passive and active ways. You can donate, as would be a passive way. Sign up as a USNGI YouTube subscriber. I know that may seem simple, but it helps build the idea of credibility when somebody tunes into the YouTube channel. Sign up for social media accounts as they come online. So as Julia's working hard to bring stuff online, please jump in, pass the word, and get things rolling. And you'll see announcements come out from us that will let you know that those sort of things are coming online. When you see a meeting announcement, one of the biggest things you can do to help us is please just forward it. If you think you know somebody that might like to have awareness of what we're doing or interest in our efforts, please do that by all means. Read up on US National Grid so you can help others understand the importance. And finally, if you don't know about, I should say, if you know about a grant or a potential other funding source, please let us know. Active is pretty simple. You want to volunteer to work on a project or become a project owner, even serve on the board, let us know. And if you got talent, just again, there's a variety of different sorts of things that we're going to need to leverage as we move forward. Shoot me an email at that address, and I'll put you in the talent pool. And here's just a reminder of how easy it is to volunteer. There's a button up in the right-hand corner, and you just fill out the form, and away we go. Okay, new business. Does anybody have any new business? Going once, going twice. I do. This is a reminder of why we are here. This happened in this age of technology, and supposedly everybody knowing where everybody is because they've got cell phone tracking and the rest of it. Here's a poor young lady that ended up dying in the Arizona desert after giving the call center her exact coordinates, and the first responders, not knowing the difference in how lat long can be offered in 3 different forms, once again went to a location 40 miles away from where this young lady was, and she passed away in the desert, and they only recently found her body. So the boys in Maryland know all about this with the crash of, what was it, Cole? Trooper 2? I believe that's it. History repeats itself, and this is just a
That
prime
is correct.
Yeah, this is just a prime example of what we're doing here and what we're trying to do, and that's called save lives. So that's what we're up to. So think about that. That takes us to, what does it take us to? Block screen. Great, wonderful thing.
Panel discussion?
Comments, announcements, and other business. Anybody out there going once?
I've
Go
got
on.
a comment.
Go ahead.
Julia's got the most of the social media documentation updated, and she's got many sample social media posts. I'm gonna get that out to you and Al
Great.
for review and everything, kind of like a follow-up to the meeting that we had. And
Yep.
then once it all looks good, then we can start posting some of the posts that she's made.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. So for those on the call, that's Mike Cord down at Florida State University, and Julie is the intern that is working with him, and we are really so thankful to get that rolling because of the value that it's going to have going downrange to support things in the future. I got one comment that just came in from Eagle's Nest. How do I get on your email notification list? Excellent question. And I noticed on our website, one of the things that we're going to need to fix is we're going to need to have something that shows people different levels of participation as to whether or not you just want to hear about when we're having meetings. We'll enable that capability. And if you want to volunteer, that will be kind of a different tier. But right now, for the short term, all you got to do is send an email to chair, CHAIR, at USNGI.org. So the abbreviation for our full name of U.S. National Grid Institute.org. And with that,
excuse me, this is Jerry Wright in Hayward. I have a comment.
Yep, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
We've implemented the USNG system in a trail system that we have here in 2 counties and a national forest. And I've been educating people and download the USNG app on your Android phones, and I've been directing them to other apps. And I always keep the app live on my phone. I'm a little concerned about having to bookmark it on a browser and being able to access it, load it, and use it. It sounds way more complicated than just opening up an app. Is it more complicated? Am I being is it more complicated or not?
No, it's not. I mean, I would encourage you after this presentation to just type that URL in and you'll see it instantly will come up as a browser page. And all you have to do is hit save on your phone. And 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 I appreciate the comment because it's helpful in illuminating what sort of support items we need to provide. Much of that technology was developed over 12 years ago. And if you will, we're in serious need of updating things. So that's a good feedback item for us. And I'll scribble a note down to the effect of there used to be a flyer, but we need to update it. So it'll be a little bit more apparent to you, Jerry.
Okay, well, if I hit save and it's not an open window in my browser, I mean, we have lots of areas that are totally outside of cell service around here. And if I
Right.
just hit save and then I go open it up, I have no cell service. I can't open up a window that I don't already have alive. And even if it is, well, if it's alive, I assume it's still connected to the satellite. But that's I'm concerned about that.
Okay.
It sounds like it's going to be much more complicated for our users, our trail users to implement, and for me to explain to them how to use it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Have you been working with BJ Colstead?
Yes.
We'll circle back through BJ on this, and I think it's fair to say that once we provide a better explanation for that one, I don't think you'll have the concerns that you have right now. It effectively is using the browser that is on your phone. It's using the actual window function of the browser to show you the location of what your chip is saying on your phone. You don't need a Wi-Fi connection. And again, once the linkage is built, it will do it automatically for you. And again, I think if we have a side conversation with BJ, it'll be clear.
Jerry,
Okay,
this is
well,
BJ,
Also,
and
also, I have a recommendation is what you do is once you've saved it, just put your phone in airplane mode, make sure you're not on any Wi-Fi, and then open it up. And if it opens up and reads the chip, you're in good shape.
okay. I'll experiment with it.
Jerry, this is BJ. I know that as Steve said, this just happened at the end of March, and so my plan is to send out information to all the groups that we've been working with to explain the difference and test it out and see how it works and help to tell your visitors on the trails how to make use of it and switch over. It's a good comment.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to change all of our signage because right now all of our signage at our trailheads and all of our informational bulletins are directing people to download one of these several apps to use. So we'll have to get going on that.
Yep. When you mentioned several apps, the ones that we've recommended in the past, like Maya's USNG and Find Me SAR, et cetera, those are all still apps and will work without internet. But I believe that this one will also work without internet. As Cole said, it's stored in the persistent cache of your phone. So we'll test that further and get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Appreciate it. Okay. Going once, going twice, gone. We're moving on to discussion.
Steve, I'm going to turn
Thanks.
it back to Steve.
Well, thank you everybody for the spirited discussion. We've lost 50% of our crowd, but the hardcore folks are still here. So you got to love it. So Jerry, again, thanks for joining us today. You've given the board some things to think about, and really appreciate the insights that you offered. Same to Mike. You can just call me Knucklehead. I'm not the chair here in a true sense. So appreciate it. And go ahead.
As a follow-up, I was able to actually download that, and it's now on the homepage of my phone, and it works in airplane mode. I had everything closed, and I clicked on it, and it opened up and said where I was. So it works.
Yeah, It's brain dead.
Congratulations. Good job. I'm glad we were able to help you.
I'm not completely technologically incompetent, but close.
No worries. It highlights that we need to do a better job of telling the story. So thank you.
You bet.
All right. Next meeting, Wednesday, June 19th, 2 p.m. Mark your calendars. I'll send out the tickler as always. And I think that means we get to the point where I get to gavel the meeting closed unless there is any last minute comments. So
Yeah, Steve, this is Cole. I'll make a motion that we close the meeting.
do I have a second?
Posted second.
Anyone opposed? Hearing nothing, we're down at 3, looks like about 36 in the afternoon. Thank you very much, everybody. Just remember, you got to have a little humor in life. Here's one from Mark Twain. Clothes make the man. Naked people have little influence in society. All right, with that, we'll see you in a couple of months. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right.